Hey there everyone, it's Ravindra here back with another video. In this video, we will briefly go through the unit testing with the help of xunit, and our main focus is on how we can write our unit test with mocking library called mock. If you find this video helpful, then please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed this channel, make sure to subscribe it. So let's get started without any delay. So here it is a project which I had created recently in my tutorial of Dapper with the stored procedure. So you can find it in the last video of mine. And here, let me go through this. Here I have this repository called person repository, and we will write all the unit test for this repository only. But we will do it later. First, we will learn about some concepts like unit testing and how we can use unit testing in this project. So first of all, let me show you one more thing. I have created this class called calculator, and here we have just this one method called add, and it is a simple method that is taking two input parameter a and b and returning the sum of a and b. We will write simple test for this method. So we will start with simple testing so that you can understand how testing works in .NET. It may be possible that some of you have never done any kind of testing in .NET, so that's why I'm touching the basics of xunit. So we will start it with creating a new project. So right click on the solution and here add new project. Here we can select the template here, the test. Okay, and here you will find lots of test projects: ms test, nunit test, nunit test, xunit test. So we will select this project xunit. So select this xunit test project and click on next button. Now let's name it to MVC. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name of project, so I guess it was Dapper MVC. Yeah, I can find it here, Dapper MVC demo. Okay, so just copy this and right here dot test, click on next, and it will create a unit test project for us. So we can leave it to 7.0. if you have 6.0, you can also, it will also be fine. So click on create. Okay, so here we can see that we have this default unit test class. Let's delete it because we will create our own. So now let's create a test for that calculator class. So so here right click, add new class, and let's name it calculator test. That's it, and make it public. After that we will write a test. So for that we have to write here fact. Now let's name it public async task and add should return value. So it's the name of our test method. So here we have three things in testing called arrange, act, and assert. So in arrange we arrange some values. So here we will arrange some value like int a equals to 5, b equals to 6, and expected equals to 11. So here we are expecting 11. That's it. Now we will do some act here. So we will actually call the method. So here we have this calculator class which have a static method add. so we can directly use it like this: int sum equals to calculator dot add, and it will not catch anything. If I press here control dot, it won't catch anything because I forgot to add reference of the project here. So I'm gonna use data project here, so I will add a reference of this data. So right click here, and here we will have add, here we somewhere add project reference. Okay, so let me show you once more. We go here in the add section and we have this add project reference, and we have two options. We can select both or one. So right now I'm not going to write any test for UI, so I'm just going to select this data part. So click on OK. Okay, now if I press here control dot, I am able to see here this using Tapper MVC demo dot data. So if I click on this, then it will add this line here. Now we are just fine, so we can use this method add, and here we will pass A and B. So now we will assign some value here, means we will test that everything is working fine or not. So for that we have this class called assert dot equal expected equals to sum. Here we are checking that this expected and sum should be equal. Sorry, here should be B, not 5. A comma B, it should return sum. So now one question, how we can run this test. So here we can go to the view section, and after that we can find this test explorer. So let's click on this, and you will see a text explorer here in the left panel. Now you can see here we have this one test, so we can click on here run, and it will run this test. So let's wait for that, and it will take a while. So now you can see that this test has been passed. What if I write here 12? Would it pass? Definitely no. So let's run it and test it again. 5 and 6, we are expecting 12 from here, and we have failed this test. So let's run this test again, and it should be all right. Okay, so all right, but what happened if someone accidentally added this one here? And let's see, someone has changed this method accidentally. Now if we go here and if we run this test, so let's see, here we are failing this test. So if we run here, we can see that failure, expected 11 and actual 12. So we are getting here 12, but we are expecting 11. So we can change it back to this one, and after that we will run the test again. So okay, so let me show you one more thing, how we can run this test if we are using Visual Studio Code. So for that we can open the terminal here. After that we can write here .NET test, and here the name of our project, so it should be test.NET test. Okay, it should be .NET test. So let's see, would it work? Okay, so we have to wait for it, and you can see passed. Here it is saying that every test has been passed, so it means we are good, but we should also run the test from here so that we can remove these error messages from here. We are good so far, but we have a problem here. And if we go here in our repository section, here is this person repository. So this person repository injecting iSQL data access. Okay, so here we have a problem because we cannot directly inject anything from here. It is a one problem. And one more problem, that we cannot mock the value for this iSQL data access DB. Okay, we can mock data like this, A and B, and but we cannot do it with the service. For that we need a different library. But before that, I also want to show you one more thing. Here we are passing only one input set. What if I want to pass more than one input set? So for that we have another thing here, which is called theory. And with theory we can pass parameters here, int a, int b, int expected. Now we can comment this out and everything will be fine. But one more thing here, we also need here inline data. Inline data, here we will pass 3, 4 and we are expecting 7. Oops, okay, here 7, 4 and we are expecting 11. So one more thing, let's say 6, 4 and we are expecting 10. So we can run all these 3 input sets on a single test call. So let's click here and let's run this. So you can see here that we have run 3 tests in this method. So you can see here the result, 3 test has passed, duration 3 milliseconds. In this way we can test our method in our .NET projects. So now we will learn how we can use the mock library so that we can mock these services here. So for that we need to do one thing here. We need to install a NuGet package. So right click on this test project and click on manage NuGet package, and here go to the browse section, and here we need to search a library called mock, and let's search here. And here we have this library mock by Daniel, what it is, Cozzolino, KZU. Okay, so let's click on install, and yeah, let me see, I guess it has installed, but it is not showing here that. Okay, now it is showing it has been installed. Okay, fine. So let's close this, and here we can see it should have updated the reference here. Okay, but I'm not finding it anywhere. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We can go again, and here MOQ. So we have installed MOQ with 4.18.4 version. So now how we can write unit test for this iPerson repository? Here we have this addAsync method. So first we will write the test cases for addAsync, but for that we need to create a test class here. So here we'll create another class. So let's name it person repository test, person repository test. make it public. That's it. Now here we have to create few fields: private, read only, SQL data access. Let's name it mock data access. That's it. And one more thing: private read only, person repository, and person repository. That's it. Now we need to create a constructor here so that we can assign some values to it. So for that we will write here mock data access equals to new SQL data access. Oops, I cannot do it like this. I should write here mock SQL data access. Okay, and it should be like this here also. Okay, now let's write here person repository equals to new person repository, new person repository, and here we can pass mock data access dot object. Okay, so now we need one more thing here, and here is a static, it is kind of static list of person. I will tell you later why I am using this list here, because it won't make any sense right now. So now we need to test this method here. So look at this test, sorry, not test, look at this method add async. It is taking an object here, type of person, and here we are calling this method db.saveData. This method is taking a string here, which is a name of stored procedure, and here we are passing an anonymous method because it is taking a dynamic object. So we can see the definition here, what it is asking for us. So you can see that it is asking for us this string, and here we need some dynamic parameters, and it is asking a one optional parameter called connection ID. So let's go here, let's see how this method actually looks like. So here we have this method. Okay, so here it is a generic method that is taking us from the stored procedure name, parameters, and connection ID. Of course, it's not a mandatory, it's an optional one. Here we are doing some stuff with database that we are not going to talk about it. So if you are interested in this project, you can check my previous video, or I will put down a link in description box. And I'm also going to pass the source code to you, so you can also find the source code in the description box. Anyway, so here how this method is working, we have this save data method, and we have this string. We are passing this string here, and we are passing an anonymous object here, and it is returning true if it is successful, and if it get any exception, it will return false. So first test case, we will write that this method should return a true value if it does not get any error, or if it successfully saved a person. So we will write that method here. So for that we will write the same thing here, fact and public async task. Now let's name add async here. Add async should return true on success. So it is a name, and it might not be that much good, but it's okay. Now here we will do the same thing, arrange act and assert. So first we will arrange some value, so we need a expected value here. So here we will write person equals to, rather than creating a new person object, I will utilize this method, this list. So I will just call person 0. That's good. And that is not good. Here is spelling mistake. Okay, now it's good. Now we have this expected object, and now we need to set up a mock. For that we will write here mock data access dot setup, and here we will call this save data method, and this save data method is this one. So we will call this save data method here, and if we look here, it is expecting this string store procedure name, and here it is expecting some dynamic parameters and optional connection ID, but that's not an optional in the case of testing. We have to pass it. So rather we can pass any string here and an object here, it dot is any. It's just an object. Okay, so it's not an actual object, it's a mock object here, which is a type of object. And here we can pass either con, or we can pass also a mock string here, it dot is any type of string. Okay, one more thing, if we go here and we can paste it here, either we can pass the name of stored procedure, or we can just pass it like this, is any string, because it does not matter what name we are using here, what object we are passing here. We are just mocking this setup. We are not actually passing any data here, we are just mocking things. So it will do unless we verify that it is taking these actual parameters, which we will see later, where passing these actual name will be matter, but right now it doesn't matter. Now we have set up our mock data. Now we can call our repository, and it is giving me nice suggestion here. Oops. Okay, it's good now. So we have called person repository dot add async, and we are passing this person object here, and we will store it to the result. Now we can check that it is a bool, because add async method returns bool. Now we can check here assert dot true result. So here we are checking that whether we are getting true or not here. So let's run this test and click on this icon, and here we can see that this test has been successfully saved. But what if someone has changed it to false here? Would it be passed? Okay, let's check it. That's why we are doing testing here. So you can see that here we are failing the test. That's why testing matters. If we have unexpectedly did the changes here, someone has accidentally changed this to false, and when we run the test, it will immediately fail this test. So let's run it again and let's make it pass. We don't want my test fail. Okay, now we will write the same test but for the failure case. Okay, so we will write the next test that if we get an exception here, then it should return a true. So let's see how we can fake this thing here. Should return false on failure, false on exception. Let's see exception. So here it is fine, it is also fine, but here we will just write here throws async, and here we will throw a new exception. That's good. Now what we will do here, that is fine, and here we will just type false. So let's see, let's test this thing. So here we can see that test has been passed. Let's make it fail. So if someone accidentally write here true, and in the exception we are getting true, so let's test this thing here and let's run this thing again. Okay, so here we are failing the test. So if we click here, we are seeing this message: assert false failure, expected false, and actual true. So here we are expecting a false, but we are getting true here. So it is the actual value which is getting true. It should be false. So let's change it back to the false and make our test runnable again. So let's wait. Okay, so now let's test one more method here. For that, let's go here and let me see what we can do here. So now what I want to test here, that this save data method should be called, and it should take the valid parameters. It means it should take this string sp create person, and it should take this anonymous object here with person with properties name, email, and address, and that's it. So, and here let's write this test here. So let's write here fact. Okay, public async task and public async task. Now let's choose a name here. So let's name it add async should call save data. So let's type here should call save data with valid parameters. Okay, so this name will be fine. Now here what we will do, arrange, and here as act and assert. So here actually we do not need to arrange anything here, and we just need to call a method. So var result equals to person repository and add async, and here we need to arrange something. So here person var person equals to PEO PLE PEO PLE people 0, add async person. So now you can see why I defined this list here, so that I don't have to create a mock object everywhere. I can just use this people list and get a value at 0 index. So yeah, now we are fine here, but one more thing, we need to write here await. And for verifying that we have called this method or not, we have a method called verify. So we will write here mock data access dot verify. Here we will write x dot save data. Okay, now here x dot verified data, sorry, x dot save data, and here it will take few things like this one. It will take a string here with this name and one object which is called it dot is. So here we are trying to mark an object, it dot is type object, and inside this, so why it is getting here, let's close it, it is distracting me. Okay, it dot is object, and one more thing here is o dot get type dot get properties name dot get value. We'll pass o here and dot to string because it's an object. Now we will compare it with person dot name, and we will copy this thing here and paste it here and just change name to email and email here, remove this o here. So and let me copy one more time here. So we will copy this thing and we will paste it here. We will change it to address, and here change it to address again. So okay, and right now I am getting error here, I don't know why, and yeah, here is a mistake. So it should be get property, not get properties. Okay, get property, get property, get property. Okay, we are now fine, but it will take another parameter which is optional. You can see here it is asking here in my mouse pointer. So you can see that string connection id equals to con. It's an optional parameter, but it gives error if I don't pass it. So I can pass it like this, con. Okay, now how I would know that this method has been called? So for that we have one method here, so it's called times dot once. Okay, so I hope I don't get any error here. So I'm going to build this solution and I'm hoping that there is not any error. So okay, it is building. So 3 succeed, 0 failed, up to date. Okay, so what we have done here, we are verifying that whether this method save data is called or not. Okay, with valid parameters. So valid parameters will be this string with name sp create person, this anonymous object, and a optional parameter which is con. Okay, and time dot once is saying that this method should be called once, not twice, not 0 times, should be called only once. So that's what we are testing here. Okay, so let's test this. So here we are seeing that everything is fine. And why we are doing this much code here? Because we are using our anonymous object here or dynamic object here, and for mocking dynamic object we have to do all of these things. So if it wasn't a dynamic object, if it was a simple object, then we don't have to do this thing here, but we have to do right now. That's why I have chosen this project for testing, so that we can learn various types of concepts. Okay, so how we can fail this test? So let's fail it. So let's say that we have changed a person name. Now we are passing an object which have this key person name, email and address. Okay, and here we are checking that it have a key name, email and address. Here we have name, here we have person name. So would it fail? Definitely. So let's test it and let's see. So you can see it is failing. If I have to change it to person name so that we can make it pass. So let's see. Yeah, that's fine. So let's change it to name and let's change it to person.name. Now great. Now we will test one more thing, that whether this method is calling exactly once or not. So what if let's call this thing once more, and here let's make this test fail. Okay, so here we can see the result. We can see we are failing the test here, and expected invocation on the mock once but was 2 times. So how we can check here that it is executing 2 times. So we have this thing here, times dot exactly and 2. So we will check. Let's see. Run. Okay, it should be fine now because we are running that method twice. Yeah, fine. So let's change back it to 1. It is also one way of checking it. We can write here exactly. So it can be useful when we are running something through the loops. So we can write here exactly 1 or 10, anything. Okay, so here now we have changed it to 1. So we have to remove this thing. Okay, and we can run our test now. So let's run all the tests here. Okay, so we are fine, and we can change it to once. That is also fine. So now let's run all the tests again. Okay, so yeah, we are fine. So we have successfully written these 3 tests here, and I hope you are understanding all the things. Now we will write few tests for this UpdateAsync, which is the same as this previous one. We are calling this save data method. We are calling the same stored procedure, sorry, not same, we are using different stored procedure, but it does not matter for the testing. And we are passing a string here, we are passing an object, and it is returning true on the success and returning false the success. So all the test cases of the previous one will be same for this one also. So it means we can use the previous test cases in this one also. So I guess I do not need to write these tests again, but let me write these things. So now we will write few tests for UpdateAsync here. So test for UpdateAsync, and here we'll write fact and UpdateAsync should return true when person is updated. So here we will arrange person from the people 0, and here we'll set up our data we are passing just the previous one. So we are doing same thing that we have done in the previous method. So here we will assert, and here we will call this UpdateAsync method. Now here we are checking that it should be true when person is successfully saved. So that's it. Now we will write the same method like the previous one. Here we are checking that everything is working fine, then it will return a true. Now we will check the test that if this UpdateAsync method runs into this catch block, it means it has got some exception, then it should return false here. So let's write here fact, and UpdateAsync should return false when data is not successfully saved. Now we'll arrange some data, and here we will set up some data, but here we are throwing async, and here we are throwing an exception. Now we'll act, and here we are calling this method UpdateAsync and passing this person object. Now here we will check assert.false should be assert.false. It means here it should be false, means we should get a false in the result. So okay, so now let's build this project and let's see. Okay, no errors. Now we can run the test. So here everything is working fine. Here we have these two tests of UpdateAsync. Now we'll write one more test. So let's write this one. Here we'll just write fact, and this one UpdateAsync save data should call once with valid parameters, and we are doing the same thing here. This save data method should be called once, and it should take valid parameters like this parameter and this parameter, and it will also take an optional parameter which was gone. So let's write here the arrange, and here we will write this thing bool result equal to person repository dot UpdateAsync, and here we will assert the condition, and here we will verify the save data method. It will take the first parameter sp update person, and here we will mark this object and like this and this. It is the same as the previous one, but here we have one more property. In the previous one we have only 3 properties. You can see here. Okay, where here you can see here we have these 3 properties: email, name and address. But in update method we also need to pass all the properties, like it will also take an ID here. So we are checking the ID also here. Okay, now we will pass the optional parameter here, and we will verify that it should call exactly once. Okay, now let's build our project. Let's see, do we have any errors? No. Now we can run this test, so we have to wait for that. Okay, so it is successfully saved, and if I change it to this, it would fail. It would definitely fail. So let's run this thing again. Okay, so that's why tests are important. If someone have accidentally entered one here, then it should fail, because otherwise we will get this error in the runtime. So now we can find this error in the testing time. So that's why testing is important. So let's run it again. Okay, so we have run all the tests. So let's remove these empty spaces from here, and okay, now we will run few test cases for this get by id async method, and it is going to be a little bit different from the previous one, because here we have not any try catch block. It means we are not expecting any error here, and we are not going to test any exception here. What we will get here, that we should get a person object. When we call this method, we should get a person object. It will be a one test, another test we will run that this get data method should be called once with valid parameters like this. It should get this string and this anonymous object. Okay, so we will write two test cases for this GetAllAsync method. Okay, so we will write here, just right here, test cases for get by id async. That's it. So now let's run here this test. Get id async returns person. So now we will arrange some data here, person, expected person from people 0, and here we will set up our data like this, mock data access dot setup, and here we will call this get data method, which will, here we can see that it is expecting these two things here, person and dynamic, and it will expecting us to pass the string, and let me see where it is. Oops, here string, and here dynamic parameters and optional parameter gun. So here let's pass this thing. So first we will pass this sp get person, and here we will pass any object here and con. Right, so here we are using this returns async method, which we haven't done in previous, because our save data method does not returns anything, so that time we did not use any returns method here. But our get data method is returning enumerable list, and we can see here this get data is returning enumerable person, so we will use here the returns async, and here we will pass some mock data. So we will create a list with only one object. Okay, so here we have a list of only one person, and we are doing this because of this thing here. Even it is only one record, but it is expecting us enumerable, then we are filtering it to first or default. It means we are taking that object from this list here. So here now we will act here, and here we will call this get by id async method, and we will pass the id of expected person here. Now we will check that this person should not be null here with the help of assert.null, and assert.equal to expected person dot id equals to result dot id, and we are doing this because we cannot directly compare the objects, so we have to compare their values. Okay, so we have written this case here, and now let's run this method here, get by id async returns person. And okay, so it has passed, so we will write another method. So now let's write another test here, and in this test we will check that this get in this get by id async method we should call this get data method once, and it should take valid parameters like this string sp get person and this anonymous object with only one property id equals to id. And okay, so we are not checking the return here, we are just checking that this get data method should be called once with valid parameters. So we will write the method here, get by id async should call get data async, should call get data once with valid parameters. Here we will arrange some data, so person expected person equals people 0. Now we will act and we will call the get by id async method with expected person id, and here we will verify the data, and we will call this get data method, and it is expecting these two things here, person or dynamic. And now we will pass first string with sp get person and this object and this connection id, and here we will write con once. So I already shown that how we can fail this test. So if I write here person id, then it should fail because we are checking id here. So it means we have to pass here a field ID, otherwise we will get error here in the test case. So let's test this method first. So let's make it fail first. Okay, so it is failing, and let's change it back to ID and let's test it again. Okay, so it's fine. What if someone has accidentally put S here? Then this test method should fail. So here we can see that this test method is failing. So we can see here, we will see error here. This method is not being called once. So for that we have to change it back to this, and now we can run this test and see the magic. Yeah, fine. So we have successfully written the test for GetAllAsync. Now we will write test cases for GetAllAsync. So let's go here to our GetAllAsync method, and in this method we will check that we should get a list from this method. Either it's empty or a complete list, it doesn't matter. Means the main thing is that we should get a list. And second test, we will check that this method should call GetData method with valid parameters like we did before. So we will write two tests here. Okay, so let's run this. Let's create a test here. So right now here we will create this test. GetAllAsync should return a collection. Now we will arrange some data here and we will set up this thing, and here we are going to call this GetData method, and it will take these two things because it's a generic method. So here we are passing here a string, and here passing any object, and here we are passing the connection string, which is an optional parameter. And here we are using this DeleteAsync method, which is returning a list of people. So it is the people here, don't get confused. Here it is the people, so we are just passing this people. So we are marking here that we have some data in our database. So we can say that we are marking our database here. Now we will write here a variable result person.getAllAsync. So how this GetAllAsync data will get us data? Because of this. Okay, so when this GetAllAsync method calls, it will look for this setup. It will see that does this setup have any data for this GetAllAsync method, and we can see that we have data here. We have passed it here. Now here we will check that sr.equal people.count and result.count. It means that we should have similar number of count from the people and the result. In this way we can check that we are getting a collection from this method. So let's run this test here, and we can run it from here. Either we can run all the tests or we can select this single one, it doesn't matter. So yeah, we are passing the test. Now we will write another method here for checking that this GetData method should be called with valid parameters, with this query and with this blank anonymous method. Okay, so let's write here this method GetAllAsync should call GetData once with valid parameters. Here we will arrange, and we do not need to arrange any data. Now here we will call the GetAllAsync method and store it in a result. Now we will verify that we have called this GetData method. So we will call the GetData method and we will pass some parameters here, getPeople, and here we will pass a blank object because it need a blank anonymous object. That's why we have to do this. There is a lot of things going on here because of this new anonymous object or dynamic object. Now The third parameter is an optional one, but we need to pass it, otherwise we will get an error here, and here we will call it once. Now we have successfully written a test method, so we will call this one and run this guy again, and it should be fine, and there should not be any error. Okay, so if I accidentally change it to this thing, so I will get error. So let's run this test again. Okay, so let's change it back, and in this way we can make sure that we haven't done any silly mistake in our program with the help of unit testing. Okay, so now we will write our last tests. So we will write two tests here. So test cases for DeleteAsync. Now let's see our DeleteAsync method, what it is doing, and where, sorry, it should be here. Okay, I have accidentally written it here. It should be here in the test file, not here. Okay, so here it is our DeleteAsync method, and here we are just doing the same stuff. We have a try catch block. On the successful deletion we will return true. On the unsuccessful deletion means if we get exception, then it will return a false. So we can write two test cases, one for the true case and one for the false case, and one more test case we can write here to check that the save data method has been called once with valid parameters. Okay, so let's write the first case here. So we'll write here DeleteAsync should return true when successfully deleted. Okay, so first we will arrange some data, and we will create id equals to 1, and here we will set up our mock data, and here we are calling this sp_delete person, and here it dot is any object or kern, and here we will act here, and we will call this DeleteAsync method with the help with passing this id. And now we will assert here, and we will check that it should be true. It means we should get here true as a result. So let's run this test. Okay, so let's run this test. It should be true. Okay, we will write another test here for the false case. It means if we get any exception, then it should return false. For that we can simply copy this method and here. So let's copy this. DeleteAsync should return false when get an exception. Okay, so arrange is fine, id equals to 1. Here we'll set up the same data. Okay, that is fine. Or we can also pass here it dot is any string. It does not matter here what we are passing. We can pass the same thing here because we are not verifying the save data method here, so we can pass anything here. So it dot is any string. It is also fine, and previous one was also fine. Okay, so it is not necessary to change, but I'm just showing you that we can do it also here. We can also do this thing here. Now here in the result we are getting this, and here we will check false, but we are not throwing any exception yet, so we need to throw an exception here. So we'll just type here throws async, and here we will throw an actual exception, throw new exception here. So let's change our method. Let's change our DeleteAsync method. So where it is here. Okay, so here we are returning false on the exception case. Let's return true from here, and let's run this test. Let's make it fail first. Okay, so it is failing. So let's click here and let's see, expected false but actual we are getting true. So let's change back it to true, sorry, false. Now it should be fine. Now it should be fine. So let's run it now. Okay, so this test case has passed. Now we will write a last test here. So now let's write here, let's write this test method DeleteAsync save data method must call once with valid parameter, and it will be the same as the previous ones. So here we'll arrange some data with id 1, and here we will call this DeleteAsync method by passing this id. Now we will verify our save data method, and here we'll pass the first parameter, the second parameter, and the third one con, and it will call once. So here, because this method is taking only one parameter, so here we are just comparing this id only with this id. Okay, so this method should be fine. And first let's change it to person id. So we are failing our test first, so let's try to fail this thing. Okay, so it is failed. It means we should pass an id here, and now it should be fine. Okay, now if I write here person 1, then it should fail again. Okay, so we have to change it back. Now we can also check here that this save data method should be called once, so let's call it twice, and let's make this method fail again. Okay, so it has failed again. So we can see here the failing condition, and here we can see that where it is, yeah, here expected invocation on method once but was 2 times. So we have to change it, and now it should be fine. Okay, so that is our last test, and that was quite a task for writing all the test cases for this test class, sorry, this person repository. Now I will publish this project in the GitHub, or actually it is already published in GitHub. And what I need to do, sorry, oops, I have accidentally deleted the code. Okay, now we are fine. So let me make sure that everything is working fine. Okay, so I guess, yeah, so this project is already been published because I was using it in my previous project. So let me push it, added test cases, and commit all. Okay, and here let's push this, and here pushing master started, your task will continue running in the background. Okay, so main thing is here that I already had published this project in the GitHub. You can find it here, there, and now I have updated it with this code. So I will put that link in the description, and I will also put the link of previous video in the description, where you can actually see what is going on this whole project. So if you want to learn MVC CRUD operations, or if you want to learn MVC CRUD operations with this dapper and stored procedure, so you can follow that video also. So that's all our test cases, and that's it for now. I will see you next time, and before, make sure to hit that like button if you really liked this video. So I will see you next time.